Hey guys, OGalbina here, bringing you guys our NCP Season 6 Week 7 battle against our good friend Just Kurt and his, Disneylanders. Kurt's a really good buddy of mine, probably my best friend in the community. I'd really appreciate if you guys went and go check him out. He's a great player, he has crazy energy, he's having a great season so far, so if you need a horse to race, to root for in the playoffs, I definitely recommend Kurt for sure. We beat him in Season 4 finals, so he's been really close. He won SummerSlam, he won BBL recently, so he's a good guy to bet on, and I'd really appreciate if you want to check him out, as well as all the other coaches. And if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to drop a like and a sub to the channel. And yeah, with that being said, we're going to jump into it. Now, just a quick heads up, I don't have a team builder for this one, just because of the fact that, again, I don't know why it keeps happening, all my teams got deleted. So, the next couple of videos in general, I just, like, straight up won't have a team builder available for you guys, which sucks, but it is what it is. There's not much we can really do about it. And, yeah, that being said, let's go ahead and jump on into it. We'll start off the battle. You'll see the 6 that I elected to go for this game, as well as the 6 that Kurt elected to go for. Let's go ahead and skip forward, because Kurt always takes time with his intro. So, we'll see it right here. Below me, he has a Mew, as well as Lycandusk, Zygarde, the Galar, Moltres, Metagross, and the Rillaboom. Our team, we have a special Eject Pack and Garchomp with Rocks, Draco, Earth Power, and Stealth Rock. Now, for a fact, we are Scarf, Eruption, Tran. If you look at his team, he does not deal with that Pokemon very well in the long term at all. His really only switch to do it, I guess, would be Zygarde. And even then, that gets chipped down. That's Zygarde taking great chip. And we can always catch it with the Dragon Ball or something like that. And I guess Lycandusk, but that obviously doesn't want to switch in on our Heatran very well, which is great. We have a pretty physically defensive Jellicent as well. Ace Choice, Specs, and Teleon, which does really, really well in this game, especially if we can eliminate or beat down that Rillaboom. Then we have a Heavy Duty Boots Swords Dancing Scolipede that also has Toxic Spikes. If you look at his team, he doesn't have a Grounded Poison on this build, and his poison in general was Wheezing, which I did not think was going to be neutralizing gas in a matchup where he has to play a Garchomp. So that's something else to keep in mind. And then we have a pretty physically defensive or mixed defensive Sylveon with just like, I believe, Mystical Fire, Hyper Voice, Wish, and Protect. Checks Zygarde, checks the Moltres, and his team actually pretty decently hard, which is very nice. Now, going into this game, my lead 100% of the time really is always going to be Scolipede, just because, again, if I get that T-Spike out, things like Zygarde, Mew, Rillaboom, things like that are just so much less of a threat versus my team, and I'm able to put myself in a pretty solid spot offensively, pretty early on to where I can really overwhelm him with T-Spike, plus that Eruption Tran really putting in a lot of work, which is obviously going to be really, really, really clutch for us. Now, if he wants to lead off with something like Rillaboom, this will also catch that, because Rillaboom offensively murks me. It does really, really well. My check right now, I guess, is Scolipede in general. I don't really switch into it super well, as the fact that it also gets high horsepower for my Heatran. My Heatran doesn't want to take any hits, obviously, because of the fact that I am Scarf Tran, and I want to make sure that I'm healthy for my eruptions and things like that. And nothing really else takes it on very well. So getting that T-Spike up and anti-leading that Rillaboom is really, really important for me. We're going to see, sorry. I choose to skip right when he actually, like, jumps into the battle. But, you know, see, we're going to lead off with our Scolipede as he leads off with the Zygarde, which is really scary. However, I'm completely fine with staying in at least one turn and getting up that T-Spike for later on, just to poison things down. I'll be able to live any kind of arrows, and if it's banded, I can pivot out, and, you know, kind of deal with it accordingly. I don't think he's going to necessarily want to set up in my face right away, as I still do have Jellicent and Sylveon. I don't think he's going to want to sub with a Sylveon in the back. That kind of just puts him in range of my Sylveon, if that makes any sense. So I am going to go ahead and just, you know, get up this T-Spike right here to, you know, try and chip him down a little bit, which is obviously going to be nice. We're going to see that he is going to stay in, obviously, as we don't really threaten him out, and he is going to Dragon Dance, which is pretty darn scary in the grand scheme of things. But again, we have a pretty phys-def Jellicent that can always switch in and can always take this thing on pretty darn well. And I'm just going to go out into that this next turn, as, you know, I can chew up any +1 hit from this thing very easily. I do take 2 +1 Adamant Arrows very, very easily. And if he's crunched, then he's definitely not going to have, like, Iron Tail in this thing or anything like that, in my opinion. I don't think he has the slots for it. So that's obviously very, very clutch. We're going to get out into that Jellicent right now and hopefully deal with this thing accordingly. If he wants to drop in arrows, that's completely fine with me. Now, if I was like an Endeavor set, this just wouldn't be scary in the slightest, but, you know, it's whatever. It's not the biggest deal in the world. We can kind of deal with it from here. So, yeah, that being said, we're going to pivot out, as Kurt's definitely thinking about this play. I'm going to zoom it forward a little bit. There we go. As we do go out into said Jelly. And right here, you're going to see that we are going to take an arrows right here, and it's going to do a chunk of damage. Now, I got to be lying if it said it wasn't. But from this, we can tell that he is not max attack based on that damage that he did do. Now, he may be adamant, but he's probably dividing his bulk up in other places. So I know I guaranteed live this next hit, which is really, really clutch. And I'm just going to throw off a big, big Ice Beam right here. Do as much damage to this thing as humanly possible, as he actually elects to go for a Toxic, which is very, very interesting. Almost has me wishing that I went for a Toxic myself. But I am going to go for an Ice Beam, and you're going to see we're going to do a ton of this thing, and it's actually Weakness Policy. So if he was Weakness Policy, I actually don't know why he didn't just DD again. Because if I like Toxic or something like that, he's able to break through me that way. Maybe he was scared he'd get Scald Burn, but even then why not just pivot out? But regardless, he's going to be at +3, which means we do die to this hit, unfortunately. We do. But that's completely fine. This really was here for this Pokemon. Now, it makes Lycandusk a little bit more annoying to pivot around with like CC in its arsenal and Play Rough and things like that. But it's nothing that we can't necessarily deal with, as he is going to knock us out with 1,000 Arrows. But my play from this point is I have two options, right? One, I can go into my Garchomp, because if he doesn't have ground coverage, I can always live a hit, and I can always knock this thing out and grab momentum and get out. But I can't make an assumption that he doesn't have a Dragon move, especially when he is playing something like a Garchomp. My other option is Sylveon, hoping he doesn't have Iron Tail. And that's what I'm elected to go for, because I don't think he has the coverage for Iron Tail. And if he does have the Iron Tail, then he can't knock out my Chomp, and I can just Hyper Voice and knock this thing out, which is obviously really, really clutch. I thought about protecting here for a minute, but obviously that's not a very good play, in the sense that I would just, potentially give him another free DD if he, like, played off a choke, and then I would actually lose. But I guaranteed live this hit 100% of the time due to his attack investment. He is going to throw off 1,000 arrows, so showing he didn't have Iron Tail, so we're fine. Except we get crit. Which is awesome. Again, it's not Kurt's fault. This is just our NCP season in a nutshell, guys. There's not much I can do to play around that, honestly. Everything on my team obviously dies to a crit, so I can't really position myself in which I don't die to a crit in that instance. I would have been able to knock this thing out, and, still been able to go from there. But it's not going to work out that way, unfortunately, as I am going to pivot out into my Garchomp right here, and I really just have to hope that he doesn't have a Dragon move. If he is Outrage or, like, Scale Shot or something like that, we do die, if that is his last slot. But we're just going to have to go for a Draco here. Hope that we live in Adamant, or hope that we live this +3 arrows. He does show to be arrows, so there's no Dragon move. I could have done this initially, but again, I can't really make that assumption, and we would have died to a crit there too. So, really, what can we do about it? We are going to just drop a Draco, and we are going to be able to knock this thing out and pivot out with our Eject Pack, but at a pretty big cost. This lead Zygarde took out half of our team, when it really shouldn't have. Now we might have lost Sylveon or had it very low. But I still have a full health Garchomp, and it would have been in a much better spot if I still had this pivot later on, as you're going to see, because we're going to be able to make, some pretty decent progress otherwise, though. So this next turn, I believe I am going to choose to go into Scolipede. I wanted to deter that Rillaboom from coming in, because it is potentially just a sack every time it gets come. Oh, no, I go into Inteleon. Interesting, Owen. But I am going to go into Inteleon right here, yeah, as I believe he is going to go out into the Rillaboom. So maybe this wasn't the best positioning by me, because what it's going to allow him to do is it's going to allow him to go to Rillaboom and pretty freely throw off a Glide, because if I go into, like, my Scolipede, he can always just, pivot out, or if he catches me with a U-turn, he can go into his Lycandusk, and that puts me in a potential game-losing situation if that's a Swords Dance variant or something like that, because under Train, even if I had EQ, I wouldn't be able to knock him out, and plus nothing else is going to. I'd probably get forced out, things like that. If he sets up a DD, I can just raw loose to that thing, or a Swords Dance, I can just raw loose to that thing. So it's unfortunate, but we're able to get a Poison off on this, what do you call it, Rillaboom, which is very, very clutch for me. It's just, we're still in a pretty darn tough spot, all things considered. So right here, he is going to be poisoned. I am going to just go and elect to sack off that Garchomp. Again, if I have a full health Garchomp, I could play around this a little bit differently, in the sense that I could go into Scolipede. If he goes into Lycanroc, I still have my Garchomp in the back to potentially be able to deal with the Lycandusk and things like that, pivot in a Rock move, stuff like that. Maybe make him a little bit less likely to Accel Rock and want to Swords Dance or, Play Rough or something like that. Win some more 50-50s, but not going to happen. Unfortunately, I'm just going to sack this thing off. I'm going to get some Rough Skin chip off, plus Poison, plus Life Orb, actually. So this thing actually takes a pretty considerable amount of chip, just from attacking this turn, which is definitely really, really nice for me. I get a little bit of it back via the terrain, but not all of it, which is, again, very, very nice. This is down, 26, 27%. Just from existing right there. Now right here, I have a couple options. I can go into my Heatran and put on some pressure like that, or I can go into my Scolipede and potentially try and set up and really just go for broke right here, as I am going to elect to do that, as if he's not like a super, super bulky Moltres, I actually have the potential to just clean right here, like win the game 100% right here. we would just need to obviously hit that +2 Mega Horn, and we'd be in a pretty solid spot right here. So I am going to go into it, and regardless, another thing that this does is it potentially chips down that Moltres into range of my, what do you call it? My Heatran in the back, which is, again, very, very clutch. Just right here, I am going to SD on a hard switch out, so we're able to position that, get that Sword Stance up as the Moltres is going to come out hard, and we're going to get that Sword Stance off and get it to +2. Now, again, depending on this thing's bulk, this is a potential roll to knock it out. We also have the opportunity to crit, and if I crit, I'm sorry, Kurt, very much so deserved. I would be 100% happy with a crit right here. And we're just going to throw off a Mega Horn here. I don't really have another play otherwise. I can't really, even if I live like, you know, Hurricane or Air Slash or whatever this thing wants to go for, I die to a Cell Rock the next time the thing comes out. The, what do you call it? The Lycanroc comes out, and I don't really switch into that move, unfortunately, anymore, as I do not have a Garchomp that resisted Rock. So we are going to just throw off this +2 Mega Horn and do as much damage as humanly possible to this thing, hopefully knocking it out. Unfortunately, we're going to miss out on it, showing this is a very, very bulky Moltres. Incredibly bulky, so it is going to live. It is going to throw off a Fiery Wrath, and we actually do live this at +1, which is, again, very, very nice. And right here, I'm actually going to throw off a Throat Chop because I want kind of a free switch out into something else, or I want to force in that Lycanroc to where I can go into my Inteleon and just click a button. And Throat Chop can potentially knock it out and then, you know, give me that extra sack piece without missing. So I figured there was a shot that I could knock him out from here, but unfortunately it looks like we don't. It doesn't really matter, though. We're going to go down right here. And we're also stalling out terrain turns, which is another potential nice thing to do. If we can out-position him and make it to where he can't get into his Rillaboom to revenge my Inteleon, we can always put him in a tough spot if he chokes and, like, miscounts his turns or something like that. So the more turns that, you know, occur right here, the more turns that grassy terrain, you know, is active and things like that. Because I'm going to my Inteleon right here, and I believe I just throw off an Ice Beam, as if he wants to go hard Rillaboom, it catches that choke, and, you know, depending on the terrain turns, which I actually was not counting at this point, I won't lie, we could put him in a potential tough spot, as that's really kind of the outs I have to play for at this point in the game. Not much else I can do. Unfortunately, the terrain's going to disappear this turn, which is not good, as out comes the Rillaboom, and it's basically gonna put me in a very tough spot. Oop, sorry, I went too fast. I forgot that it skips ahead 30 seconds instead of 10, so I'm like always, oops. But right here, I'm gonna play for a choke, like a little bit of 50-50. If he wants to glide into my Heatran, then I would be able to get it all back and kind of just put on a little bit of pressure that way. But I figured if you want to catch me with the U-turn or a high horsepower, he might click that on that turn. Unfortunately, he doesn't, and we're going to go down there, and we're going to go into our last one, Heatran, and that is pretty much a wrap. I don't think there's much else that we can really do in this instance, as I do go out into Heatran. I am going to be able to click Eruption, which is pretty darn cool. If I had Flamethrower, maybe that was the click. I believe he still has something that resists Flash Cannon in the back. I don't exactly remember what it is, but I am going to be able to Eruption, knock this thing right out, which is very, very nice. I don't knock out the Lycanroc from full. I don't knock out the Mew from full. So there's not really a great win condition for me at this point in the game, unfortunately. There's not much I can do in that sense, so I am just going to kind of spam Eruption until the cows come home. There's not much I can really do. He's kind of thinking about what he wants his endgame to be. He's going to go into Mew. He's going to actually be like a Super Fanging Mew, which is definitely a smart play because my Eruptions just aren't going to do as much damage now, obviously, as I am going to go ahead and Eruption. He is going to Super Fang and bring me down to about half, and then obviously I'll get that back a little bit here with the grassy terrain. And this next turn, I'm actually going to be able to throw off one more Eruption and knock him out completely, which is, again, very, very nice for me. You know, nice little diff, nice for the ego. Get a couple more Heatran kills, and we're gonna knock that thing out. Look how good Heatran is when he hits his moves, too. But we're gonna knock that thing out, and then I believe the Lycanroc Dusk is going to come out next, and, you know, kind of just finish this game off. So I'll go ahead and kind of just set that there as we outro. Another really unfortunate game hacks-wise. Again, I'm not saying I beat Kurt, guaranteed. Same thing with, like, you know, Haze before. A nice little crit to kind of, rubbing it in there at the end. But, I'm not saying I beat Kurt, obviously, but I think crits like that so early in the game puts you in such a disadvantageous position to where you might not win, necessarily, guaranteed if those don't happen, but I guaranteed could not win after in which that crit happened, if that makes sense. So it sucks, but in the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't matter at this point in the season. Again, like I said, it's more salt in the wound, if anything, because despite me not being able to make playoffs and having probably one of the worst seasons of my draft league career, I'm still trying my best for you guys. Like, I still want to win every single game. I'm not going in these games not trying or anything like that. just not winning an NCP right now. Last week we played Keegan, and I will 100% be sweating for that because as I want to win. I want to go out on top at least, and with a W. And it'll kind of prove to me that despite me not playing super great this season, the hacks has definitely been a big portion of it, in the sense that this game was kind of robbed. The game versus Hayes was super robbed, and the game versus Jaber was giga robbed. And then so if you count those three, and I could win next week or something like that, then that's a potential 5 wins for, even if I don't end up winning this Kurt game. Whereas I definitely think I would have beaten Jaber and Hayes personally. So that happens, but that's Pokemon. Hopefully we can bounce back next week and end the season on a W, and take a little bit of a break and come back stronger. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys next time.